Admiral Do-hyun stood tall before the massive viewing window of his command ship. Stars stretched out before him like countless diamonds on black cloth. His reflection showed a face marked by years of easy victories. The silver badges on his dark blue uniform caught the light as he turned to face his officers. "The reports on these humans are complete?" he asked. Captain Kang, his chief intelligence officer, nodded. "Yes, Admiral. They occupy 7 worlds in total. Their technology is basic. Their biggest ships are no match for even our smallest cruisers." Do-hyun smiled. Another simple conquest for the glory of the Talon Dominion. For 500 years, the Dominion had ruled this part of space. No race had stood against them and survived. These humans would be no different. "Show me their homeworld," he ordered. The main screen lit up with images of a blue-green planet. Earth, they called it. Do-hyun studied it with mild interest. Pretty, but not remarkable. The data showed high gravity and radiation levels compared to most life-bearing worlds. Strange that anything could evolve there at all. "Their defenses?" he asked. "Minimal," Captain Kang replied. "A few orbital platforms. A small fleet of 20 warships spread across their territory. Nothing that can stop us." Do-hyun nodded. This would be perfect for his nephew's first command. "Send for Captain Taiho," he ordered. In his private quarters, Captain Taiho adjusted his uniform. At 35, he was young for his rank. Many said he had risen quickly because of his uncle, but Taiho knew better. He had earned his position. Now he would prove it to everyone. The message from Admiral Do-hyun had been brief. "Report to command immediately. Your first solo mission awaits." Taiho's heart beat faster. Finally, his chance to show his worth to the Dominion. His chance to bring glory to his family name. When he arrived at the command center, his uncle greeted him formally. "Captain Taiho, I have selected you to lead the first strike against a newly discovered race. They call themselves humans." The Admiral gestured to the screen showing Earth and its colonies. "You will take 20 ships to their colony world called New Horizon. You will offer them the standard terms of surrender. When they accept, you will begin the integration process. If they resist," Do-hyun shrugged. "Well, they won't resist for long." Taiho bowed deeply. "I am honored, Admiral. I will not fail." "See that you don't," his uncle replied. "You leave in 6 hours." On the Dominion capital world, Princess Jae-yun walked quickly through the royal gardens. Her long robes, in the royal purple of the Talon ruling family, swept behind her. 2 guards followed at a respectful distance. She ignored them. Jae-yun was not like other members of the royal family. While they concerned themselves with luxury and politics, she studied history and science. Her private network of informants brought her knowledge from across the Dominion, and what she had learned about these humans troubled her deeply. She reached her father's chambers and waited as the guards announced her. Emperor Sung was busy as always. The ruler of 1,000 worlds had little time, even for his daughter. After 10 minutes, she was allowed to enter. Her father sat behind his desk, not looking up from the documents he was reviewing. "What is it, Jae-yun?" "I have the trade agreement with the Vask Federation to finish today." Jae-yun bowed. "Father, I have information about the humans that concerns me." The emperor sighed. "The conquest is already arranged. Do-hyun's nephew will handle it." "But father, my researchers found something in the ancient archives. Something about humans." This got his attention. He looked up. "What could possibly be in the archives? We only discovered them months ago." Jae-yun placed a data crystal on his desk. "The records mention a race that matches their description. They were involved in what the ancients called the Purge." The emperor frowned. "The Purge is a myth, a story to frighten children." "The archives suggest otherwise," Jae-yun insisted. "If these are the same beings, they survived a war that destroyed civilizations far more advanced than ours." Her father waved his hand dismissively. "Ancient history, if it happened at all. Do-hyun reports their technology is primitive. They have no defense against our fleet." "Technology can be rebuilt," Jae-yun said quietly. "But the knowledge of war, the instinct for survival, these things remain in the blood." The emperor's patience was at an end. "Enough? Your interest in dusty records has made you fearful of shadows. These humans will join the Dominion, like all others before them. Jiayun knew better than to argue further. She bowed and backed away. As you wished, father. 40 light-years away on Earth, Admiral Han stood in the control center of Terran Defense Command. The massive underground complex was bustling with activity. On the main screen, a simulation showed the approaching Talon fleet. Han was 62 years old, his face weathered by decades of service. Unlike the ornate uniforms of the Talon officers, his was simple and functional. The only decoration was a small silver pin showing Earth surrounded by stars, the symbol of the Terran Alliance. They're coming exactly as we predicted, said Commander Lee, his second in command. 20 ships heading for New Horizon. Han nodded. Their pattern never changes. First, a small force to demand surrender. Then, if there's any resistance, they send everything they have. Should we evacuate New Horizon? Lee asked. No, Han replied. That would tip our hand. The colonists are safe in the underground shelters. Let the Talons believe we are weak and unprepared. He turned to the communications officer. Signal the Invictus. Captain Song is to proceed with Protocol Thermopylae. The officer nodded. Yes, Admiral. Han looked back at the screen, studying the enemy ships. For 3 years, since first detecting the Talon Dominion, humanity had prepared. Stealth probes had mapped their territory, studied their technology, and monitored their communications. The Talons never noticed. They were too confident, too used to being the strongest. They had conquered hundreds of peaceful worlds, species that developed in safe, stable environments, species that had never known true war. But humans? Humans were different. Earth was a death world by galactic standards. High gravity, high radiation, extreme weather, and countless predators. Humans had evolved in constant danger. And then, instead of uniting against their harsh world, they had turned on each other. Thousands of years of warfare had shaped human history and human technology. The peaceful centuries since the last global conflict had not dulled that edge. Instead, humanity had channeled that knowledge into preparation for the day they would meet others among the stars. Admiral, Commander Lee said, interrupting his thoughts. The Invictus is in position behind New Horizon's moon. Captain Song reports all systems ready. Han took a deep breath. Humanity's first interstellar war was about to begin, but it would not be a war of conquest. It would be a lesson. Send one final message to Captain Song, Han ordered. Remember the objective. This is not about destruction. It's about education. On the screen, the Talon ships continued their approach, unaware that they were not the hunters but the prey. Captain Tai-Ho stood proudly on the bridge of the Dominion warship, unstoppable. 19 other ships followed in perfect formation. In 6 hours, they would reach the human colony. His first officer, Jin Woo, approached with a report. All ships report ready, Captain. Weapons are charged. Boarding parties are prepared. Tai-Ho nodded with satisfaction. Excellent. Have you prepared the surrender broadcast? Yes, Captain. Standard terms translated into their language. Good. This will be a simple mission. My uncle believes the humans will surrender immediately. Jinwoo hesitated. And if they don't? Tai-Ho laughed. Look at our fleet, Jinwoo. Look at our history. The Talon Dominion has conquered hundreds of worlds. Our technology is superior. Our warriors are the finest in the galaxy. He gestured to the stars around them. The Dominion has never lost a war. We have never even faced a serious challenge. He looked at the image of New Horizon on the screen, a small blue-green world much like Earth. These humans know nothing of war, Tai-Ho said confidently. But they will learn to fear it. And then, like all others, they will accept our rule. Little did he know that the humans were already watching his approach. Little did he know that they had been preparing for this moment for years. Little did he know that his 20 ships were heading toward a force unlike any the Dominion had ever faced. The Talons had never feared war. They were about to learn why they should. Captain Tai-Ho's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the human colony world of New Horizon. The blue-green planet hung in space before them, looking peaceful and vulnerable. Several small orbital stations circled the planet, primitive by Dominion standards. Scan for defenses, Tai-Ho ordered. Jinwoo, his first officer, worked at his console. Scanning now, Captain. I detect minimal orbital defenses. No energy shields, no heavy weapons platforms. He paused. There appears to be only one small ship on the far side of the planet's moon. Tai-Ho smiled. This would be even easier than expected. Open a channel to the planet. Broadcast on all frequencies. The communications officer nodded. Channel open, Captain. Tai-Ho stood tall, straightening his uniform. The humans would see him as he delivered their fate. People of New Horizon, I am Captain Tai-Ho of the Talon Dominion. Your world now falls under our protection and rule. Surrender your military forces and government. Accept Dominion citizenship, and you will be treated fairly. Resist, and you will be conquered. You have 1 hour to respond. He signaled to cut the transmission. Prepare the landing ships, he ordered. I want troops ready to secure their main settlement. Jinwoo looked nervous. Shouldn't we wait for their response, Captain? It's just a formality, Tai-Ho said with a wave of his hand. They have no choice. 5 minutes later, the communications officer turned to Tai-Ho with surprise on his face. Captain, we're receiving a response from the humans. Already? Put it on screen. The main screen showed a human man in a simple gray uniform. His face showed no fear, only calm determination. Talon vessels, this is Commander Park of the Terran Alliance Defense Force. Your demands are rejected. Approach at your own risk. New Horizon is under the protection of the Terran Alliance. The message ended. The bridge was silent. Tai-Ho laughed, breaking the tension. They refuse. With what power? Form attack pattern Delta. We will show these humans what happens to those who defy the Dominion. The 20 Dominion warships spread out in a wide arc, approaching the planet. Weapons systems powered up across the fleet. Jinwoo suddenly leaned forward at his console. Captain, sensors detect a ship moving out from behind the moon. On the main screen, a single vessel appeared. It was smaller than even the Dominion's light cruisers, sleek and gray with few visible weapons. The name TA's ANVICTUS was written in human letters on its hull. One ship. Tai-Ho said with disbelief. They send one ship against 20? It's moving to block our approach to the planet, Jinwoo reported. Tai-Ho shook his head at the foolishness of these humans. Destroy a firestorm, move to intercept that vessel. Disable it if possible. If they resist, destroy it. Yes, Captain, replied the commander of the firestorm. Tai-Ho watched as one of his destroyers broke formation and approached the lone human ship. The rest of the fleet continued toward the planet. Captain Jinwoo of the destroyer Firestorm felt confident as his ship closed on the human vessel. The enemy ship was half the size of his destroyer, with what appeared to be minimal weapons. Target their engines, he ordered. Let's disable them quickly and continue with the main fleet. Weapons locked, Captain, his weapons officer reported. Fire. Energy beams shot out from the Firestorm, striking the human ship directly. Jinwoo expected to see explosions, damage, perhaps even the ship breaking apart. Instead, the beams seemed to splash harmlessly against the hull of the Invictus. What happened? Jinwoo demanded. Did we hit them? Direct hit confirmed, Captain, the weapons officer said, confused. But no damage registered. It's as if our weapons had no effect. Impossible. Fire again, full power. The Firestorm fired again, this time with all weapons. The human ship took the hits without attempting to dodge. Again, there was no visible damage. Jinwoo was about to order a third barrage when the sensors officer cried out, Captain, the human ship is powering up a weapon system. Before Jinwoo could respond, the Invictus fired a single projectile. It moved impossibly fast, faster than the Firestorm's tracking systems could follow. The last thing Jinwoo saw was a bright flash of light. On the bridge of the Unstoppable, Tai-Ho watched in horror as the destroyer Firestorm simply disappeared. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. No explosion, no debris field. Just gone. What happened? He demanded. Where is the Firestorm? No one answered. They were all staring at the screen, where the human ship floated untouched. Then, without warning, the Invictus began to change. Sections of its hull opened, and hundreds of small objects poured out. Drones, the sensor officer finally said. The human ship is launching drone fighters. Tai-ho watched as the swarm of drones split into groups and headed toward his fleet at incredible speed. Evasive action, he ordered. All ships, defensive formation. Target those drones. But the drones were too fast, too maneuverable. They dodged the Dominion ship's fire with ease. When they reached their targets, each drone released a small projectile similar to what had destroyed the firestorm. One by one, Dominion ships vanished. 4 ships lost. Jinwoo reported, his voice shaking. 5, 6. Tai-ho couldn't believe what he was seeing. This was impossible. No race had ever inflicted such damage on a Dominion fleet. Retreat, he ordered, his voice barely a whisper. Then, louder. All ships retreat immediately. Jump to safety coordinates. The remaining Dominion ships turned and fled, preparing their faster-than-light drives. The drones did not pursue. They returned to the Invictus, which remained in position, guarding the planet. As the Unstoppable prepared to jump, a message came through on all channels. It was the same human from before. The Terran Alliance does not seek war, but we do not fear it. This was a demonstration. The next incursion will be met with full force. Tai-ho stared at the screen, his mind struggling to understand what had happened. His perfect mission, his chance for glory, had turned into disaster in minutes. Captain, Jinwoo said quietly, "We need to inform Admiral Do-hyun." Tai-ho nodded numbly. "Yes, send the emergency signal." As the Unstoppable jumped to safety, Tai-ho knew his career was over. But more importantly, he knew the Dominion had made a terrible mistake. These humans were not like the other races they had conquered. These humans knew war. On board the TA's Invictus, Captain Song-hai watched as the Dominion ships flood. She was a veteran of 50 years of service to the Terran Alliance, and this was not her first combat. But it was the first against an alien force. All drones recovered, Captain, her executive officer reported. No damage to the ship. The kinetic converters worked perfectly. Hai nodded. Casualties? None, Captain. The Dominion weapons couldn't penetrate our shields. Hai allowed herself a small smile. 3 years of preparation had paid off. The Dominion had expected an easy victory against primitive humans. Instead, they had encountered technology centuries beyond their understanding. "Send word to Admiral Han," she ordered. "Tell him the demonstration was successful. The Dominion fleet is retreating." Her communications officer nodded. "Do you think they'll come back, Captain?" Hai's face grew serious again. "Oh, they'll be back. With everything they have. Pride demands it." She looked at the view screen, where the last Dominion ship was disappearing into FTL. "But next time, they'll approach with fear in their hearts." She stood and faced her crew. "Return to standard orbit. Keep all systems at full alert." This was just the beginning. In his command center on Earth, Admiral Han received the report from the Invictus. Everything had gone according to plan. The Dominion had been shown humanity's power, but in a limited way. Just enough to make them reconsider. "Should we deploy the rest of the fleet?" Commander Lee asked. Han shook his head. "Not yet. Let them think the Invictus is our best ship, our strongest weapon. Let them gather their forces for one massive attack." He looked at the strategic display showing the Dominion's territory. Their empire stretched across hundreds of star systems. "They never feared war," Han said quietly. "That is their weakness. They conquered peaceful races who surrendered rather than fight. They think war is about having the biggest fleet, the most soldiers." He turned to Lee. "But humans know better. War is about survival. It's about will. And humanity's will has been forged in the fires of thousands of years of conflict." "Prepare a message for the Defense Council," Han ordered. "Tell them Phase 1 is complete. The enemy has taken the bait. Now we prepare for Phase 2. The real battle was yet to come, but humanity was ready." Admiral Do-hyun stood perfectly still as the Emperor's angry voice filled the throne room. He did not move, did not flinch, even as the ruler of the Talon Dominion listed his failures. 20 ships. 20 ships against 1 human vessel, and you lost 6? Emperor Sung shouted, his face dark with rage. 6 ships gone without a trace. Explain this disaster, Admiral. Do-hyun bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, we underestimated the humans' technology. Their weapons are unlike anything we have encountered before. The Emperor gestured angrily at the holograms floating around the throne room. They showed images of the battle, of the Dominion ships disappearing one by one. You told me these humans were primitive. You said they would surrender immediately. That was our intelligence, Your Majesty. It appears the humans have been hiding their true capabilities. Princess Jian stood quietly to the side of the throne. She had been summoned to witness her father's anger, but now she stepped forward. Father, may I speak? The Emperor waved a hand, giving permission. The Admiral is not entirely at fault, Jian said. I tried to warn about the ancient records. The humans have surprised us, but this may be an opportunity to learn. She gestured and a new hologram appeared. It showed Earth, the human homeworld. Look at where they evolved, she said. High gravity, high radiation, extreme weather patterns. Their world shaped them to be stronger, more resilient than most species. She brought up more images, human history, human wars. More importantly, they have been fighting each other for thousands of years. Their recorded history is filled with warfare. While the Dominion conquered peaceful races, the humans were perfecting the art of war against themselves. The Emperor frowned, but his anger had cooled slightly. What are you suggesting, daughter? Bring in our scientists. Study what happened. Before we strike again, we must understand what we face. The Emperor looked at Dohyun. Admiral? Dohyun nodded. Princess Jian is wise, Your Majesty. We need more information before we act again. Very well, the Emperor said. Summon the Science Council. Hours later, the throne room had been transformed into a war room. Scientists and military leaders gathered around a large table. Holographic displays showed the battle at New Horizon from every angle. Dr. Sunmei, the chief scientist of the Dominion, stood to present her findings. She was small, even for a Talon, but her mind was renowned throughout the Empire. The human ship, this Invictus, uses technology that defies our understanding, she began. Their hull absorbed our energy weapons without damage. This suggests some form of advanced energy shield, possibly using principles we have yet to discover. She showed a close-up of the Invictus. Their weapons are equally advanced. They appear to use some form of gravity manipulation to accelerate small projectiles to near-light speed. When these projectiles hit our ships, they somehow converted the entire mass of the vessel into energy. Gasps filled the room. Such technology was thought to be impossible. How did they develop such weapons? The Emperor demanded. Their civilization is younger than ours. Dr. Sunmei hesitated. We have a theory, Your Majesty. The humans' constant warfare may have accelerated their technological development. While other species focused on peaceful expansion, the humans poured resources into weapons research. Princess Jian spoke up. And the ancient records suggest they may have had contact with the old ones, the civilization that preceded all of us. Perhaps they learned from those ruins. Dohyun had been listening quietly. Now he stood. Your Majesty, in light of this information, I recommend a diplomatic approach. We should send envoys to these humans, seek peace rather than risk further conflict. The Emperor's face darkened again. Peace? After they destroyed 6 of our ships? The Dominion does not sue for peace. The Dominion conquers. He stood towering over everyone in the room. We will gather the Grand Armada, he declared. 3,000 warships, the largest force ever assembled. We will crush these humans completely, show them the true power of the Dominion. No one dared argue. The Emperor's word was law. As the meeting broke up, Princess Jian approached Admiral Dohyun. This is a mistake, she said quietly. If one human ship could destroy 6 of ours, what will their fleet do to the Grand Armada? Dohyun looked tired. I know, Princess. But your father cannot accept defeat. His pride will not allow it. Then we must prepare for the worst, Jian said. This war may change the Dominion forever. Unknown to the Talons, tiny human probes had been watching their capital world for months. These devices, no larger than an insect, recorded everything said in the throne room. On Earth, Admiral Han watched the Emperor's decision with grim satisfaction. They're reacting exactly as we predicted, he told Commander Lee. They'll send everything they have, all at once. The command center was busier than ever. Officers moved quickly between stations, preparing for the coming battle. The Defense Council is meeting now, Li said. They want your recommendation. Do we activate the full defensive grid and prepare to repel an invasion? Han studied the strategic display. It showed the positions of all human ships and defensive installations across 7 worlds. No, he said finally. We have a better option. He touched the display, bringing up a new map, the Talon Dominion's territory. If we wait for them to come to us, we give them the advantage of choosing the battlefield. We should take a more proactive approach. Li looked shocked. You want to attack them first? Not attack, Han corrected. Demonstrate. Show them our full capability before they commit their forces. Give them one last chance to reconsider. He entered commands into the system. 7 massive ships appeared on the display, the pride of the human fleet. Prepare the Titans for immediate deployment, Han ordered, and send word to the Defense Council. Tell them I recommend Operation Checkmate. In a secure bunker beneath the Defense Ministry, the Terran Alliance Defense Council voted unanimously to approve Admiral Han's plan. 12 men and women, representing all human worlds, agreed that the time had come for decisive action. Minister Choi, the head of the council, signed the authorization. Operation Checkmate is approved, she announced. Admiral Han has full authority to proceed. She looked around the table at her colleagues. For 300 years, humanity has prepared for this moment. Since the Great Unification, we have built our strength in secret, knowing that one day we would encounter others among the stars. She touched a button, and a hologram of the galaxy appeared above the table. The Talon Dominion has conquered hundreds of worlds. They believe themselves invincible. They have never faced a species that evolved on a death world. They have never faced a species that has known war for its entire history. Minister Choi's face was solemn. We do not seek to conquer. We do not seek to destroy. But we must show them that humanity will not be subjugated. We must show them that their era of easy conquest is over. The council members nodded in agreement. Send word to all colonies, Choi ordered. Operation Checkmate begins in 24 hours. Back on the Talon capital world, preparations for war continued. The Grand Armada gathered, ship after ship arriving from across the Dominion. 3,000 warships, a force that had never been assembled before. The Emperor himself would lead them aboard his flagship, the Eternal Glory. Princess Jiayun watched from her chambers as the fleet formed in orbit. Her heart was heavy. She had tried to warn her father, tried to make him understand what they faced, but his pride would not allow him to listen. A soft chime indicated a message on her private terminal. She checked it and found a report from one of her agents, stationed near the human territory. Unusual activity detected. 7 large vessels have departed Earth orbit, destination unknown. Jiayun frowned. What were the humans planning? Had they somehow learned of the Grand Armada? Were they fleeing? She doubted it. From everything she had learned about humans, they were not the type to run from a fight. No, they were planning something the Dominion would not expect. She considered warning her father again, but knew it would be useless. The Emperor had made his decision. The Grand Armada would attack, and nothing would change his mind. Jiayun could only watch and wait, hoping that when the inevitable clash came, enough of her people would survive to rebuild. Because one thing was now clear to her, even if the rest of the Dominion refused to see it. The age of easy conquest was over. The humans had changed everything, and the universe would never be the same. The Grand Armada of the Talon Dominion gathered at the edge of human space. 3,000 warships formed a massive wall of metal and energy, the greatest military force ever assembled in the galaxy. At the center was the Emperor's flagship, the Eternal Glory, twice the size of any other vessel. On the bridge, Emperor Sung sat on a throne-like command chair. Admiral Dohyun stood nearby, along with the highest-ranking officers of the Dominion fleet. Princess Jiayun had also been brought along, at her father's insistence. Let her see the might of the Dominion, he had said. Let her witness the destruction of these humans who dared to challenge us. The Emperor stood, addressing the fleet through the communication system that connected all 3,000 ships. Today we end the human threat, he declared. Today we showed the galaxy that none can stand against the Dominion. Prepare for jump to Earth. We will destroy their homeworld first, then hunt down every human colony until none remain. A cheer went up across the fleet. Only Do-hyun and Jae-hyun remained silent, their faces grim. "Admiral, begin the jump sequence," the Emperor ordered. Do-hyun nodded to the navigation officer. "Prepare for fleet-wide jump to Earth coordinates." "Jump coordinates locked, Admiral," the officer replied. "All ships reporting ready. Jump in 5, 4, 3. Suddenly alarms blared across the bridge. The navigation officer's eyes widened. "Admiral, spatial distortions detected. Something is happening to space itself around us." Before anyone could respond, massive tears appeared in the fabric of space. 7 huge rifts opened around the Grand Armada, each large enough to swallow 100 ships. From these rifts emerged 7 enormous vessels. Each was 10 times the size of the Invictus, dwarfing even the Emperor's flagship. Their hulls were dark gray, with blue energy flowing through patterns on their surface. On the side of each ship was the emblem of Earth surrounded by stars. "Titan-class warships," Jae-hyun whispered, recognizing them from her research. "The humans' most powerful vessels." The Emperor stayed in shock as the 7 human ships took formation around his flagship, effectively cutting it off from the rest of the fleet. "How did they find us?" he demanded. "How did they know we were here?" "They've been watching us all along," Jae-hyun said quietly. "Just as we thought we were studying them, they were studying us." The main screen on the bridge activated without command. A human face appeared. "Admiral Han of the Terran Alliance." "Emperor Song of the Talon Dominion," Han said, his voice calm and measured. "I apologize for this unexpected visit, but we thought it best to speak before any unfortunate actions were taken." The Emperor's face flushed with anger. "You dare to threaten the Grand Armada? You have only 7 ships against our 3,000. Han smiled slightly. "Numbers can be deceiving, Your Majesty. As you saw at New Horizon, our technology is somewhat more advanced than yours. But we did not come to fight. We came to talk." "There is nothing to discuss," the Emperor snapped. "You destroyed 6 of our ships. You will pay for that insult." "Those ships fired first," Han replied. "We defended ourselves with minimal force. Had we wished to destroy your nephew's entire fleet, we could have done so easily." The Admiral's face grew serious. "You have never truly known war, have you? Your dominion conquered peaceful races who lacked the will or ability to resist. You have never faced an enemy who could fight back. You never feared war because you never understood it." Han gestured, and the screen split to show views from around the human ships. Energy weapons were aimed at the Emperor's flagship. "We have lived war. We have breathed it. For thousands of years, humans fought each other, perfecting the art of destruction. We have mastered war in ways you cannot imagine." The Emperor looked at Do-hyun, who nodded solemnly. The Admiral understood what Han was saying. "But here is what may surprise you, Emperor Song," Han continued. "Having mastered war, we chose to master peace instead. We do not wish to destroy your dominion. We do not seek conquest. We seek only to live free and to help others do the same." Han's offer appeared on a secondary screen, terms written in the Talon language. "These are our terms: immediate recognition of human sovereignty, withdrawal of all Dominion forces from human space, and fair reparations for the colony that was threatened." The Emperor started to object, but Han continued. "In exchange, we will share some of our technology with you. Not our weapons, you are not ready for those, but medical technology, energy production, faster ships. And we offer a mutual defense pact against any threats that may come from beyond known space." Jae-hyun stepped forward. "Father, please listen to him. This is not surrender. This is an opportunity." The Emperor looked at his daughter, then at the human ships surrounding his flagship. Each was capable of destroying his entire fleet. He had never faced such a situation before. For the first time in his life, Emperor Song of the Talon Dominion felt something new: fear. Not just fear for himself, but fear for his empire, his people. Fear of war. Real war, not the easy conquests he was used to. "If I refuse?" he asked, his voice quieter now. "Then we defend ourselves," Han said simply. "I hope it doesn't come to that. Too many would die on both sides. And deep space is dangerous enough without us fighting each other." The Emperor looked at Do-hyun again. The Admiral spoke softly. Your Majesty, I recommend we accept their terms. We cannot win this battle. After a long silence, the Emperor nodded. We will accept your terms, Admiral Han. The Dominion recognizes the sovereignty of the Terran Alliance. 1 year later, Princess Jian stood in the new human Talon embassy on Earth. She had been appointed as the Dominion's first ambassador to the humans, a position she had accepted with honor. Today, she would meet with Admiral Han to finalize the peace treaty. The terms had been negotiated over months, with technology already beginning to flow from Earth to the Dominion worlds. The door opened and Admiral Han entered. He wore his formal uniform with the silver Earth and Stars pin on his collar. Princess Jian, he said, bowing slightly in the Talon style. It is good to see you again. Admiral Han, she replied, returning the gesture. The final treaty is ready for our signatures. They sat at a table where the document waited. Before signing, Jian looked at Han. I have wondered something for a year now, she said. Your ships could have destroyed our entire fleet. You could have conquered the Dominion. Why didn't you? Han's face softened. Because we feared war once, just as you do now. He looked out the window at the peaceful Earth landscape. Long ago, humans nearly destroyed ourselves with our own weapons. We learned the true cost of war. And when we reached the stars, we vowed not to bring that destruction to others. He turned back to Jian. The difference between our peoples isn't that you never feared war, it's that you never understood it. Having never faced true destruction, you used war casually as a tool of expansion. Han picked up his pen. We had to show you that fear so you would understand the value of peace. Jian nodded slowly. My people are learning. Already, many worlds that were conquered have been given new freedoms under our reforms. She signed the treaty, then watched as Han did the same. As they finished, a message arrived. Jian read it and looked up with surprise. The joint human Talon research vessel has made contact with a new civilization at the edge of the galaxy. Han smiled. And how will the Dominion approach them? With demands of surrender or offers of friendship? Friendship, Jian said without hesitation. We have learned that lesson well. She stood by the window, looking at the stars becoming visible in the evening sky. You know, Admiral, my father still doesn't fully understand what happened. He thinks you spared us out of mercy. And what do you think? Han asked. Jian smiled. I think you spared us because peace is harder than war. Anyone can destroy. Building something together, that takes true strength. Han nodded. Your father never feared war. Now he does, and that fear will keep the peace. And what do humans fear, Admiral? Jian asked. Han looked thoughtful. We fear becoming what we once were. We fear forgetting the lessons we learned through blood and fire. He turned to her. But mostly, we fear being alone in this vast universe. That's why this treaty matters more than you know. Together, they looked out at the stars, no longer enemies, not quite friends, but partners in a new age for both their peoples. The cycle of conquest was broken. A new cycle had begun.